The message A'ja Wilson sent to her agent after receiving the news reportedly contained only 3 words. That alone says everything. However, the decision by USA Basketball to remove Wilson from the 2026 World Cup roster, while simultaneously elevating Caitlin Clark to the starting point guard role, was not made impulsively or without serious consideration. Wilson's repeated public jabs at Clark, ranging from questioning her influence to diminishing her accomplishments, ultimately came back to haunt her. On the international stage, there is no room for personal resentment or ego-driven rivalry. Wilson's 2-year pattern of negativity ended up costing her the most prestigious opportunity in women's basketball. Share your thoughts in the comments. Did A'ja Wilson deserve to be removed from Team USA, and who else do you think shouldn't make the roster? Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark dominated Day 2 of Team USA camp, once again looking like the best player in the world. The phone call Wilson received that Friday morning began like any other routine conversation with USA Basketball. She answered expecting updates about training schedules, travel logistics, or uniform details. Instead, she heard words that instantly turned her world upside down. The official on the line delivered the news professionally, but the message itself was devastating. Wilson was not being asked to adjust her role or accept fewer minutes. She was being completely removed from the roster. People close to Wilson describe her reaction as absolute disbelief. This was a player with 2 Olympic gold medals, a dominant WNBA resume, and the firm belief that her place on Team USA was untouchable. She had already structured her calendar around international play and even declined endorsement opportunities that conflicted with World Cup commitments. The possibility that USA Basketball would view her as expendable never crossed her mind. Yet, when the full picture is examined, the decision becomes easier to understand. Looking back over Wilson's social media activity from the past 2 years reveals a clear pattern of subtle and not so subtle shots aimed at Clark. It began with dismissive remarks about rookie hype being exaggerated. Over time, Wilson started questioning whether Clark's popularity was truly benefiting women's basketball or simply inflating expectations. These comments were often framed carefully during interviews, allowing just enough ambiguity to avoid direct backlash while still delivering the message. As Clark's star continued to rise, Wilson's criticisms grew sharper. She took aim at shooting percentages while conveniently ignoring Clark's assist totals and playmaking impact. She complained about media attention without acknowledging that Clark was bringing new audiences to the sport. Every major Clark milestone was met with a deflection or an attempt to redirect praise toward veterans who had been grinding for years. USA Basketball officials noticed all of it. Behind the scenes, they weren't just monitoring public comments. They were tracking how Wilson's attitude affected team chemistry during international events. Teammates began to sense tension whenever Clark's name came up. Some veterans quietly distanced themselves from Wilson's negativity, recognizing how corrosive it had become. The breaking point came when players expressed concerns about participating in Team USA environments that felt increasingly hostile. International basketball demands total unity and focus. Veteran leaders cannot afford to waste energy undermining a rising star. Wilson's agent spent the rest of that Friday scrambling for answers. How could a 2-time Olympic champion be replaced by someone without international experience? The explanation was already documented in Wilson's own interviews and social media history. USA Basketball had records of every dismissive remark and every attempt to minimize Clark's impact. Wilson, in effect, created her own downfall. USA Basketball made a deliberate choice to prioritize positivity and long-term growth rather than protect the ego of a player who struggled to share the spotlight. Wilson herself once said, "It doesn't matter what we do as Black women. We're still going to be swept under the rug," emphasizing her belief that race played a role in the discourse. But Clark's phone rang just hours after Wilson received her news, and the message she heard couldn't have been more different. Clark was not only selected for the 2026 World Cup roster, she was named the starting point guard and team leader. USA Basketball had been quietly building its entire strategy around her for months. This decision wasn't driven by hype, but by data, film study, and measurable impact. Analysts highlighted her restored speed, burst, ball control, and conditioning. Broadcasters noted how effortlessly she dictated tempo and punished defenses even when her shot wasn't falling. International broadcast partners had already been asking about Clark's availability. European networks wanted confirmation before finalizing coverage plans, while Asian markets prepared marketing campaigns centered around her. Clark had become more than a player. She was a global brand capable of delivering unprecedented viewership for women's basketball. Her Nike partnership and international marketing reach further strengthened USA Basketball's position. Internal reports showed undeniable results. WNBA ratings surged when Clark played. Attendance spiked in every city she visited. Merchandise sales shattered long-standing records. Social media engagement exploded whenever her name appeared. USA Basketball realized they were witnessing something truly rare. When Clark learned about her starting role, her reaction validated the decision. She didn't question pressure, hierarchy, or expectations. She simply expressed gratitude and asked how she could best help the team win. That response stood in stark contrast to Wilson's reaction. The starting point guard announcement symbolized more than strategy. It represented a shift in values. USA Basketball made it clear they were choosing unity over division. Clark's elevation marked the transition from old guard thinking to a new era of women's basketball. The organization chose progress over nostalgia, cohesion over conflict, and global growth over protecting fragile egos. Clark's ability to manipulate defenses through pace, gravity, and decision-making makes her effective even on off-shooting nights. Defenders respect her range so much that she creates open looks for teammates simply by being on the floor. Wilson, meanwhile, avoided a harsh reality she likely would have faced internationally. The favorable officiating she has benefited from in the WNBA does not exist under FIBA rules. International referees operate under stricter standards, calling hand checks, moving screens, and travels without regard for reputation or marketing value. The physical advantages Wilson relies on would result in quick foul trouble on the global stage. Clark's game doesn't depend on whistles or leniency. Her success is built on skill, intelligence, and fundamentals that translate seamlessly across rule sets. International basketball rewards players who can thrive without protection, and Clark fits that mold perfectly. Wilson's dismissal sent shockwaves throughout the WNBA. For the first time, veterans realized there could be real consequences for fostering negativity toward rising stars. Players who once took subtle shots at Clark began deleting posts and adjusting their public tone. Agents advised clients to embrace a more positive narrative focused on growth rather than resentment. USA Basketball's decision underscored a fundamental truth. Leadership, character, and the ability to elevate the entire sport matter just as much as statistics. Wilson had the accolades, but she failed the character test. Her 2-year campaign against Clark backfired completely. Clark's continued success proves a simple principle. You can try to tear someone down, but if they keep delivering results with integrity, negativity eventually collapses on itself. Clark never fired back. She just kept winning. International basketball has no patience for drama or division. It demands focus, unity, and excellence. Wilson's removal and Clark's promotion show exactly where women's basketball is headed. USA Basketball chose the future over the past. Clark earned her role not through favoritism, but by embodying the talent, mindset, and leadership the global stage requires. Let me know in the comments if you believe A'ja Wilson deserved her removal. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and click the video on screen. We'll see you next time.